Hey, and welcome back to Heart and Health Wellness. I'm your host, Dr. Melissa Welch, and I'm really glad that you are here today, especially if you found this episode because there was something that you saw in the title that really just made you stop mid-scroll or whatever you were looking at. Because I want to talk to you about something that I've been sitting with for a while now, and it's something that I see in my own clinical background as a marriage and family therapist for the last 10 plus years. It's something that I hear from women in my community, and it's something that the research is actually very clear about, even though almost nobody is talking about it in the way that it really deserves to be talked about. And that is this: the return to work experience for very high achieving women, specifically women that are in healthcare and education, is not just hard, it is a whole person crisis. And it touches every dimension of well-being that I talk about here on this podcast. The psychological, the physical, the social, and the spiritual domains, all of it are affected by this transitional experience. So today we're going to name what's actually happening here, and we're going to back it up with evidence. And most importantly, I'm going to give you a way through it. So whether you are in this season right now, or you just came out of it, or you are even supporting someone who is living it, I think this episode is going to really land. So let's go ahead and get into it. So I want to start by painting a picture that I think is going to feel very familiar to you. So you're a therapist with a full caseload. Maybe you're a school principal who walks into your school and the people just feel that energy shift when you arrive. Maybe you're a charge nurse or a physician, a healthcare leader who has spent years earning the kind of trust that it takes years to build. Your professional identity is not just what you do. It is who you are to the core. And it's how you understand your own value. It is the thing that gets you out of bed in the morning. Like, you find purpose and meaning from your work. And then this really exciting thing happens where you have a baby. And so you step into this totally breathtaking and disorienting, beautiful new identity as a mother. And when maternity leave ends, you try to come back and you try to hold both of those identities at once. But unfortunately, something feels deeply and persistently off. So this is not a mindset problem. It is not a weakness. And research actually tells us that the return to work transition, when you come back after maternity leave, triggers a profound cognitive and emotional struggle for women. And it creates this real tension between a woman's personal sense of self, her professional role identity, and her emerging identity as a mother. They describe this as significant identity work that has to be done. And it's one of the primary drivers of career changes and career exits in this season of a woman's life. And that comes from identity theory research on maternal return to work transitions that examine those professional role conflicts and self-concept disruption for working moms. So I want to name something specific about the helping professions here, because if you're a therapist, a counselor like me, an educator like me, or a nurse or a social worker or physician, you were trained to hold space for other people's complexity. And you have a whole clinical framework for navigating the human experience. And yet somehow none of that training prepared you to hold space for your own identity in crisis. And that's where you find yourself now. So you come back to your practice or your school or your unit or whatever, and you feel like you are performing a version of yourself that doesn't quite fit anymore. So there's a groundlessness there that's happening. And there's a sense that the self you used to know is somehow unavailable to you or inaccessible to you. So that's the identity crisis. It's the first challenge that we're going to talk about here. And it is the root from which all of the others grow. Now, the second challenge I want to talk to you about is that you have lost your edge and you're totally terrified that people will find out. So that first challenge, if I didn't say it explicitly, is that you don't know who you are anymore. Okay. The second one is that you've somehow lost your edge. So I want you to sit first with a specific scenario for a moment. You're back at work. You're in a meeting, maybe an IEP review with a parent and other team members, or a clinical supervision session with a new therapist that you're helping. Maybe it's a leadership team briefing in your clinic. And so you go to say something that you would have said without any hesitation 6 months ago. And so you pause, you're getting your words together, but somewhere in the back of your mind, a voice is saying, do you still know what you're talking about? Has something changed since you were here last? Are they going to see that you're not quite yourself right now? Can they tell that you're going to be tripping over your words because those words aren't coming to you as fast as they used to? And that voice, you probably already know this, is called imposter syndrome. And research tells us that high achieving women in particular are vulnerable to experiencing imposter syndrome when they come back to their career from maternity leave. So experiencing fear of being exposed, difficulty owning their own accomplishments, and a deep sense that that time away has somehow undone what they spent those years building. And that comes from research on imposter phenomenon in high achieving professional women, including heightened vulnerability during career transitions, such as the return to work after maternity leave. So there's a good body of research here that shows that returning mothers experience a lower sense of control over their professional lives. They experience increased stress and guilt, reduced satisfaction with their own performance, and a heightened fear of job loss, even when their actual performance has not changed at all. And here's the piece that I always come back to because it genuinely gets me emotional. Those longitudinal studies show that moms, especially moms that have 2 or more children, actually outperform their peers who don't yet have children or won't have children over the long duration of their careers. And so the capacity that motherhood builds in you is actually very measurable and real. And that comes from research on longitudinal career performance data that shows that moms outperform non-mothers over the long arc of their professional lives, which is really exciting and cool to me. But the truth is that when you're living inside the gap between who you were and who you're becoming, that data does not feel accessible or real to you at all. So what this looks like on the ground is the school principal who goes quiet in district leadership meetings. So she used to drive those meetings, but now she's just kind of sitting there quietly. Or the therapist who feels like she needs to stop taking complex trauma referrals because she doesn't trust her own clinical instincts the way that she used to. Or the physician who starts double checking every decision that she used to make just on pure instinct. So these high achieving women who are self-selecting themselves out are shrinking in the moments that really need them to show up the most and most profoundly. All right. So that was challenge number 2. Now, the third challenge that I want to talk about is this fear that you're failing at everything and succeeding at nothing. But let's pause real quick. And I want to tell you about a company that I absolutely love who makes the most beautiful and wonderful gifts for new moms. And that's We Are Amma. If you've been listening to the podcast for any amount of time, you know that I talk about We Are Amma because I love them so much. I have their halo necklace that I wear almost every single day. I have their cocoon that's used as a breastfeeding cover, but since I'm no longer in that chapter of life, I use it as a shawl or a scarf, and I absolutely love it. So if you're a new mom yourself, you need to check it out. If you know someone who's about to be a new mom or just had a baby and you want to give them a really special gift that they're going to treasure that's good quality, definitely check them out. I'll drop the link for them down in the show notes. And if you would like to get 15% off your purchase, just use the code Melissa, MELISSA, to get that 15% off. All right. Okay, let's get back to challenge number 3, which is the impossible standard. So this one is the one that nobody really says out loud. So it lives in those really quiet moments, those personal reflection times when you're driving home or the middle of the night, maybe even the 2 a.m. feeding when the rest of the world is asleep, including your partner in bed, and you're getting up and taking care of the little one. And so in those times, those thoughts can get really loud because we don't have other distractions at the time. And so they really start to kind of overwhelm our brain at that point. So here's what is happening in those situations. Women in the helping professions, they already carry the weight of other people's well-being as a professional baseline. You already have a deeply internalized standard of what it means to show up well, for your clients, for your students, your patients, your team. And so now you have layered on top of that an entirely new role of motherhood with its own deeply internalized standards of what a good mother looks like. And we all have a definition of in our brains of what a good mom is. The research on this transition is very clear that the most persistent internal barrier for returning working mothers is a cultural and professional expectation that mothers must put others' needs before their own, that somehow good mothering requires sacrificing professional ambition. And for women in caregiving professions, that expectation does not just come from society. It's actually baked into the professional culture itself. And this research that's on societal and professional cultural norms that create that internal barrier of self-sacrifice expectations for returning working moms and caregiving roles is really interesting. I'm going to link some of these articles or references down in the show notes if you want to check them out more. So you have the principal who goes home guilty that she stayed late at the school for a parent meeting. And then she goes to work the next day feeling guilty that she left early for the pediatrician because her baby's sick again because daycare colds, and they just continue and continue and continue. I'm like having flashbacks right now. Okay. So the therapist who cannot be fully present in a session because she's thinking about her baby and how she had to pull her baby off of her that morning. And then so she can't be fully present with her baby in the evening because she's thinking about her client and how she was distracted during that session. And then there's the healthcare leader or physician who performs total competence all day long, taking great care of her patients, but then she falls apart the moment that she gets to her car. And research shows us that the women in this season need to simultaneously re-examine their career aspirations, renegotiate their professional roles, manage an enormous mental load across both domains, and protect their mental health somehow, all at once. And when high achievers try to do all of that at the same standard that they held before, the math does not work. The math is not mathing, as they would say. And so it results in chronic guilt, relentless cognitive load, and that quiet devastation of feeling like you're just failing people that you love the most all around you, at home and at work. And that research on the multi-domain cognitive and emotional labor required for returning professional moms and its documented impact on mental health, work satisfaction, and relationships is really interesting. So like I said, I'm going to keep that in the show notes down at the bottom if you want to check those out. All right. So the good news is that there is a shift that working moms can make that is going to change everything. Okay. So let's just take a moment to slow down and really bring this all together. All right. There are a lot of challenges that working moms face when they go back to work after maternity leave. And I want to bring all three of these together now, because when you see what they have in common, my hope is that something is going to click for you. So the identity crisis, the confidence collapse, the impossible standard, they all share one common root. And the root is this: you are trying to go back in time. You're trying to return to the professional that you were before becoming a mommy, and to restore the confidence that you had before motherhood. You're trying to reconcile two identities that feel like opponents now. And so every strategy built on going back is working against you, because that version of you isn't available anymore. She has already evolved into something more, something really wonderful, but completely different. And so the shift is this: you have to stop trying to go back. You have to start moving forward as a new integrated version of yourself who has both the experience of a meaningful and fulfilling career and the exciting new journey of motherhood. And I want to be really clear. This is not a reframe designed to make you feel better about losing something. It is not me telling you to lower your standards or accept less than you deserve in this life. This is what the research actually supports: that women who build what research calls self-efficacy around a new integrated identity rather than trying to perform who they were before show significantly stronger career commitment, higher professional satisfaction, and better outcomes once they've returned to work. And that research on maternal self-efficacy and integrated professional maternal identity formation as predictors of career commitment and performance post-return to work will be tagged down below as well. I want you to think about what motherhood has actually built in you through a biopsychosocial spiritual lens, because that is exactly how we look at everything on the Heart and Health Wellness podcast. Psychologically, you have developed a quality of attunement, patience, and tolerance for ambiguity that you could not have accessed before. This is a whole new level unlocked. As a therapist, that makes you an even better clinician, a more whole clinician. As a principal, you are reading your school and your environment differently now. So you are clocking which kids look like they didn't sleep, which teachers running on empty, and which parents need more than an information update. You're so much more in tune with those things than you ever could have been before, because the brain is actually opened up to this more than it ever could have been when you weren't a mom yet. Physically, you have been running on less sleep. You've been managing a body that's done something absolutely extraordinary in building a human, and you're still showing up, which is not a liability. It's evidence of your capacity, which is extremely profound. Socially and relationally, you have had to renegotiate every relationship in your life. Your friendships have changed. Your relationship with your significant other or spouse has changed. And that's painful. It's also the deepest leadership development that exists. And it's not a course that you can sign up for. It's just something that you get through experience. And spiritually, this is one that I found really profound, is that this season has a way of stripping away everything that was performative in your identity, and it leaves only what is absolutely essential. A lot of women that I work with say that coming back after maternity leave was the first time that they ever really asked themselves, why am I doing this? What do I actually want my work to mean for me and my life? And that's not a crisis. That is proof that you are in a calling. And I think that's really cool. And that's something that I personally experienced. I had to ask myself, why am I doing this work? And it reminded me of why my work is so important to me and why it is so fulfilling, but an entirely new light that I never had before becoming a mom. Motherhood did not diminish you. it expanded you. So the question is no longer, how do I get back to who I was? The new question is, who am I becoming? And how does she show up in her career and her family from a place of wholeness instead of constant internal competition and a war is what it feels like at times. All right. So I'm going to wrap us up here. If you are a therapist, an educator, a healthcare professional, a woman who leads and serves and cares for others as you're living, and you're in this season right now, I want you to hear this. What you are experiencing is not a breakdown. It is a becoming, a beautiful becoming, if I can call it that. And you don't have to navigate it alone. The work that I do, I absolutely love it. I work not just one-on-one with women in my clinical practice as a therapist, but I also work with women in a group coaching environment where I help high achieving women in healthcare and education and helping roles who are navigating that return to work transition. And I don't do this as a therapist. It's completely different from therapy. I do it as a coach. And so I use a forward focused, evidence informed strategy that's built specifically for women like you who already know how to do hard things. You've proven that over and over again. And you just need a new framework for this particular hard thing. So if today's episode resonated with you at all, I would love to hear from you. You can find me at drmelissawelch.com/book, and you can book a call with me right there. So we can talk about whether my coaching program is a right next step for you, or if there's something else that I know about that I can direct you to. But I just want you to know that you don't have to feel alone in this journey that you are on. That link will be down in the show notes if you want to check it out. And if you are listening to this and you know a woman who is going through this right now, or even is about to go through this, who needs to hear this episode, maybe a colleague who just came back from maternity leave, or a friend who is really in the thick of it, who's been back for 6 months and she's riding that struggle bus right now. Maybe it's someone that you've been worried about quietly, but you haven't necessarily confronted them about it. This is a great episode to share with her. And sometimes the most powerful thing that we can do for each other is just say, I heard something that made me think of you. Here it is. So that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. As always, take care of yourself. And until next time, be well.